I'm here to talk about the bridge rehabilitation itself. Steve mentioned that the bridge was built 84 years ago. So like any infrastructure that we have, it's because of its age and because of the environment we're in, the saltwater environment, it needs a major rehabilitation. As part of the rehabilitation, and I'll get into this a little more later, but we're going to replace, much of the mechanical elements, the electrical control systems that control the raising and the lowering of the bridge, the deck grading, which is the actual driving surface on the bascule spans or the spans that raise, structural steel that needs to be replaced or fixed or upgraded, and then the tender houses, the houses that you see out there, we have to rehabilitate those and bring them back to their original look. And then, of course, we're going to repaint the bridge and make it look all nice again. The project is anticipated to be completed in the spring of 2012, so about another year from now, not quite a year from now. And as Steve mentioned, the cost of the project is $13.8 million. This first slide shows where the bridge is in the downtown area, and most of you are probably familiar with this, but the closure will be from Bayshore up to Ashley, sorry. This is kind of an aerial photograph of the bridge, what it looks like. The center part where you drive through is the part that raises, and that's really where the main rehabilitation effort is. Again, the bridge was built in 1926 by the Strauss Bridge Company. It's a 525-foot long bridge, the entire bridge, it's what's called a double leaf bascule, which just means there's, it raises, two parts raise up or lift up. Down in the bottom part, you can see, we call that the typical section, or what the road looks like. We've got 4 through lanes with sidewalks on both sides. That's what was in place before the rehabilitation started, and that's what it'll look like again when we're done. Part of the reason for this major rehabilitation is because of the structure. The bridge is structurally deficient right now. There's a rating system that they do to rate all the bridges in the state. And this one rates 34.4 on a scale of 100, which means it needs significant structural, or there's structural deficiencies. Again, a lot of that's because of the deteriorated steel and concrete and the machinery, all the gears and drives and systems, machines that are underneath the bridge that help it lift up and raise up. This is just some of the picture of some of the underneath and inside the bridge. The reason this is where we get into why do we need to close the bridge. And I'll get into the last part, what the different phases of the project are and how it's going to all work. But we have to replace existing members or beams and steel on this bridge that is deteriorated. And to do that, oftentimes you can't do that with traffic on the bridge. We're also going to replace the gates and all of that help stop cars when the bridge is coming up, and of course the navigation system, the navigation lights that are underneath the bridge. Some other things that we're going to be replacing are the floor grading that I mentioned earlier, which you can see in this picture here, the electrical power and control systems, which control all the drives that raise and lower the bridge and what have you, and again the navigation lights and the lighting system. The mechanical parts of the bridge are in need of repair / replacement, depending on what the issues are. And again, as I mentioned before, we'll be repainting the bridge and the structural steel and reconditioning the emergency generator, which we use if there's a power loss to continue to operate and open and close the bridge. What this is a picture of what the Platt Street Bridge tender house looks like today and what we anticipate it to look like when we're done. Essentially, one of the goals is to maintain what it looked like, the historical significance of the bridge, but to make it look like it's kind of new again and make it operate like it did way back when it was first built. Here's where we get into the different phases of the project. This project started in January of this year, 2011. The first phase, which you can see in red on this, is the lane. We have the lane on the northern end closed now, and then in yellow is where we have intermittent closures so that they can start work on the bridge and do the work as much as they can on the north side of the bridge, the structure itself. Some of that includes replacing some of the railing and different issues like that that they can get to now. Phase 2, which will be the next phase, which will probably be starting sometime next month, is essentially the same thing but on the south side. Again, we're going to have a lane closed as we do now, but on the north side, and intermittent lane closures while they're working. The third phase, which is what this meeting's all about really, is, as Steve said, going to probably start in October. That's the date we anticipate right now. And it will be a full closure of the bridge. We kind of did this slide to show, you know, what would be closed. Essentially, the bridge itself will be closed and the approach off of Bayshore, and then Platt Street, eastbound Platt Street. You will, and Steve Dagnall will get into this later, but you'll still be able to come and make a right and go south on Bayshore. But this is being done, again, so that they can replace a lot of the mechanical systems that are underneath the bridge that they can only put underneath while the spans are raised.
So what we've done is we've put together two maps, and they are both a work in progress. And by that I mean, we're not saying this is a done deal, this is the way it's got to go, and everybody's got to follow our rules. What we're saying is we've had a lot of input, we've done a lot of study, we've put this together, and we're going to move forward from here until the day we close this thing, continuing to refine these maps and the direction, and hopefully getting enough word out so that everybody can find an alternate route rather than using Platt Street Bridge before the day we have to close it. So we're trying to give people options. We're trying to get as much travel load off the bridge or out of that area as we possibly can. We're trying to move people from the farthest distance away to get to other routes earlier rather than waiting till they get right up to the base of the bridge and find out they can't go over it. So those are our plans. So we have what we call a macro map, and that's this one. We'd like people as far away as St. Petersburg who normally come across the Gandy Bridge and go down Bayshore and Platt Street Bridge to get to downtown or further east. We'd prefer you didn't take Gandy. Take Howard Franklin Bridge and use the interstate. I mean, start planning your trip that far away. If you do, or if you live in South Tampa, we're encouraging, there is West Shore, Manhattan, Dale Mabry, Himes to some extent, McDill, and the Selman Expressway. And we realize that that's a toll booth. But you know, if it costs you $30 or $60 or even $100 over 3 months, and it makes your trip into work a whole lot easier, you might want to think about doing it. Again, we're going to be encouraging folks to do that. It just makes sense to get traffic, again, off of the Bayshore. If you come on Howard Franklin, again, we're suggesting Kennedy. The Selman Expressway Bridge is open. The Kennedy Bridge is open, the Cass Street Bridge is open, the Laurel Street Bridge is open, and the interstate is open. So again, there's a lot of ways to get into downtown, a little different maybe from some of their, what they're used to doing as a routine, but there are a lot of options on how to get into downtown. The green, well, the blue is obviously the best route. The green routes are good routes. They're mostly 4-lane routes. Again, can handle a lot of capacity. The yellow routes are there, not necessarily recommended, but they're there. They're available to you and to the public. But again, we suggest you just stay away from the Bayshore and from that part of downtown as part of your travel plans into downtown or further east. This is a micro map because it's focusing right on the area where the bridge is going to be closed. We know we have a lot of housing areas, Davis Island, Harbor Island, Hyde Park, again, the people who live in downtown and work elsewhere perhaps. What we're looking at, again, if you're on Bayshore, Bayshore is going to be closed right around where Vern Street is. There will be a police officer there, at least initially, to direct traffic, to control traffic, because the outbound is still going to be flowing, but if you're going northbound on Vern, if you have not taken heed of all of our counsel and our suggestions of another route, then you're going to be in the queue waiting to turn onto Vern, a one-lane road, to get onto Platt Street. So that's what will happen for those continuing on Bayshore. If you come down Platt, we're going to try to direct you onto Platt. You will have an option of getting onto the crosstown, and I realize it's just a little jump over the bridge and it's going to cost you some money, but it won't be a problem. Or you can go to Kennedy. Again, the various distribution depending on where you need to go downtown. So those are the kind of the bridge options. The Tampa General Hospital did talk to us for some time about when their folks let out in the afternoon. We've talked to them about possibly staggering some of that disbursement. They're looking at the possibility of doing that. It won't be over hours and hours, but it might be a half-hour difference rather than all at one time. And additionally, on Platt Street, we're going to make that 3 lanes. Currently, Platt is 2 lanes, so Platt will go to 3 lanes. There will be a little bit of parking impacted that's along there, but other than that, again, Platt will be 3 lanes. There will also be an officer over here. This is, I know a lot of folks have said, oh, that's a problem. You can't get out onto Kennedy. There will be an officer there, again, at least initially. We'll see how long and for how many hours we keep one there. And there's a traffic light right in front of the University of Tampa. So we're gonna adjust that traffic light a little bit to give more of a gap to allow, again, traffic to get onto Kennedy off of Platt. Downtown, a couple of things that might be different, or they're going to be different here. If you're on the crosstown, on the expressway, I'm sorry, the Selman Expressway, frequently when there's an event, right there, we close that ramp. TPD has said they will not close that ramp, or unless they absolutely have to, they're planning to leave that ramp open. So that'll be available for folks on Harbor Island, or again, people going to downtown or further east. You won't be forced onto Florida and then going north when you want to go south or some other direction. Platt Street, as was said earlier, Platt Street, you could still take a right and go southbound on Bayshore from Platt Street. So folks who use the Publix there will still have access out in that direction. Thank you all.